I'm Jeremy. Today's day 374 reading. Today in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Let's get started. We're currently on page 156. Let's go. The door slid open and they stepped out into the now almost deserted atrium. Eric, the security man, was hidden behind his daily prophet again. He had walked straight past the golden fountain before Harry remembered. Wait, he told Mr. Weasley, and pulling his money bag from his pocket, he turned back to the fountain. He looked up into the handsome wizard's face, but up close, Harry thought he looked rather weak and foolish. The witch was wearing a vapid smile like a beauty contestant, and from what Harry knew of goblins and centaurs, they were most unlikely to be caught staring this soppily at humans of any description. Only the house elf's attitude of creeping servility looked convincing. With the grin at the thought of what Hermione would say if she could see the statue of the elf, Harry turned his money bag upside down and emptied not just 10 galleons, but the whole contents into the pool at the statue's feet. I knew it, yelled Ron, punching the air. You always get away with stuff. They were bound to clear you, said Hermione, who had looked positively faint with anxiety when Harry had entered the kitchen and was now holding a shaking hand over her eyes. There was no case against you. None at all. Everyone seemed quite relieved, though, considering they all knew I was going to get off, said Harry, smiling. Mrs. Weasley was wiping her face on her apron, and Fred, George, and Ginny were doing a kind of war dance to a chant that went, "He got off, he got off, he got off." That's enough, settle down, shouted Mr. Weasley, though he too was smiling. Listen, Cyrus, Lucius Malfoy was at the ministry. What? Said Cyrus sharply. He got off, he got off, he got off. Be quiet, you three. Yes, we saw him talking to Fudge on level 9. Then they went up to Fudge's office together. Dumbledore ought to know. Absolutely, said Cyrus. We'll tell him, don't worry. Well, I'd better get going. There's a vomiting toilet in Bethnal Green waiting for me. Molly, I'll be late. I'm covering for Tonks, but Kingsley might be dropping in for dinner. He got off, he got off, he got off. That's enough, Fred, George, Ginny, said Mrs. Weasley, as Mr. Weasley left the kitchen. Harry, dear, come and sit down. Have some lunch. You hardly ate breakfast. Ron and Hermione sat themselves down opposite him, looking happier than they had done since he first arrived at number 12 Grimmauld Place. And Harry's feeling of giddy relief, which had been somewhat dented by his encounter with Lucius Malfoy, swelled again. The gloomy house seemed warmer and more welcoming all of a sudden. Even Creature looked less ugly as he poked his snout-like nose into the kitchen to investigate the source of all the noise. Of course, once Dumbledore turned up on your side, there was no way they were going to convict you, said Ron happily, now dishing great mounds of mashed potatoes onto everyone's plates. Yeah, he swung it for me, said Harry. He felt that it would sound highly ungrateful, not to mention childish, to say, I wish he'd talked to me, though, or even looked at me. And as he thought this, the scar on his forehead burned so badly that he clapped his hand to it. What's up? Said Hermione, looking alarmed. Scar, Harry mumbled, but it's nothing. It happens all the time now. None of the others had noticed a thing. All of them were now helping themselves to food while gloating over Harry's narrow escape. Fred, George, and Ginny were still singing. Hermione looked rather anxious. But before she could say anything, Ron said happily, I bet Dumbledore turns up this evening to celebrate with us, you know. I don't think he'll be able to, Ron, said Mrs. Weasley, setting a huge plate of roast chicken down in front of Harry. He's really busy at the moment. He got off! He got off! He got off! Shut up! Roared Mrs. Weasley. Over the next few days, Harry could not help noticing that there was one person within number 12 Grimmauld Place who did not seem wholly overjoyed that he would be returning to Hogwarts. Cyrus had put up a very good show of happiness on first hearing the news, wringing Harry's hand and beaming just like the rest of them. Soon, however, he was moodier and surlier than before, talking less to everybody, even Harry, and spending increasing amounts of time shut up in his mother's room with Buckbeak. Don't you go feeling guilty, said Hermione sternly, after Harry had confided some of his feelings to her and Ron while they scrubbed out a moldy cupboard on the third floor a few days later. You belong at Hogwarts and Cyrus knows it. Personally, I think he's being selfish. That's a bit harsh, Hermione, said Ron, frowning as he attempted to prise off a bit of mold that had attached itself firmly to his finger. You wouldn't want to be stuck inside this house without company. He'll have company, said Hermione. It's headquarters to the Order of the Phoenix, isn't it? He just got his hopes up that Harry would be coming to live here with him. I don't think that's true, said Harry, wringing out his cloth. He wouldn't give me a straight answer when I asked him if I could. He just didn't want to get his own hopes up even more, said Hermione wisely, and he probably felt a bit guilty himself, because I think a part of him was really hoping you'd be expelled. Then you'd both be outcast together. Come off it, said Harry and Ron together, but Hermione merely shrugged. Suit yourselves, but I sometimes think Ron's mom is right, and Cyrus gets confused about whether you're you or your father. Harry? So you think he's touched in the head? Said Harry heatedly. No, I just think he's been very lonely for a very long time, said Hermione simply. At this point, Mrs. Weasley entered the bedroom behind them. Still not finished, she said, poking her head into the cupboard. I thought you might be here to tell us to have a break, said Ron bitterly. Do you know how much mold we've got rid of since we arrived here? You were so keen to help the order, said Mrs. Weasley. You can do your bit by making headquarters fit to live in. I feel like a house elf, grumbled Ron. Well, now that you understand what dreadful lives they lead, perhaps you'll be a bit more active in Spoo, said Hermione. Well, S-P-E-W, but let's just call it Spoo, said Hermione hopefully, as Mrs. Weasley led them to it again. You know, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to show people exactly how horrible it is to clean all the time. We could do a sponsored scrub of Gryffindor Common Room. All proceeds to Spoo, and it would raise awareness as well as funds. I'll sponsor you to shut up about Spoo, Ron muttered irritably, but only so Harry could hear him. Harry found himself daydreaming about Hogwarts more and more as the end of the holidays approached. He could not wait to see Hagrid again, to play Quidditch, even to stroll across the vegetable patches to the herbology greenhouses. It would be a treat just to leave this dusty, musty house, where half of the cupboards were still bolted shut and creature wheezed insults out of the shadows as you passed. That Harry was careful not to say any of this within earshot of Cyrus. The fact was living at the headquarters of the anti-Voldemort movement was not nearly as interesting or exciting as Harry would have expected before he'd experienced it. Though members of the Order of the Phoenix came and went regularly, sometimes staying for meals, sometimes only for a few minutes, whispered conversations, Mrs. Weasley made sure that Harry and the others were kept well out of earshot, whether extendable or normal. And nobody, not even Cyrus, seemed to feel that Harry needed to know anything more than he had heard on the night of his arrival. On the very last day of the holidays, Harry was sweeping up Hedwig's owl's droppings from the top of the wardrobe when Ron entered their bedroom carrying a couple of envelopes. Book lists have arrived, he said, throwing one of the envelopes up to Harry, who was standing on a chair. About time. I thought they'd forgotten. They usually come much earlier than this. Harry swept the last of the droppings into a rubbish bag and threw the bag over Ron's head into the wastepaper basket in the corner, which swallowed it and belched loudly. He then opened his letter. It contained 2 pieces of parchment, the usual reminders saying that the term started on the 1st of September, the other telling him which books he would need for the coming year. Only 2 new ones, he said, reading the list. The Standard Book of Spells, Grade 5 by Miranda Gottschalk, and Defensive Magical Theory by Wilbert Slinkard. Crack. Fred and George apparated right beside Harry. He was so used to them doing this now that he didn't even fall off his chair. We were just wondering who assigned the Slinkard book, said Fred conversationally. Because it means Dumbledore's found a new defense against the dark arts teacher, said George. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 161. Bookmark close. Peace out.